Welcome back. I know you're excited and you want to design awesome stuff, but first, we have to make sure that we understand app designing. I'm gonna simplify things as much as I can so we can keep this short, sweet, and beginner-friendly. So, first of all, as a designer, you're gonna need to give the client an interactive prototype of the app. So this is gonna allow the client or his team to check on your progress and make sure that things are okay. They're not just approving the design itself, they're also approving the flow. So if someone forgot to add a button or a step or a screen, your prototype will help them find those problems. Now, after you get feedback and make changes, you will eventually get the green light. Say the client is happy and the project is completed. What then? What do you need to give the client? Well, a link. That's it. A link for development purposes for his coder. Now, we're gonna talk about the entire process in detail at a later point, but what you have to know right now is that you won't actually give him the source file. Well, you might actually give him the .xd file, the source file, just as a part of the contract, but he's not actually gonna open it. No, instead you're gonna give him a link that contains everything that the coder needs to get to work. Besides that link, you should also make a list of assets. In short, say that you used 2 stock photos, right? Put those links in a document. If you use the font from Adobe Fonts, again, put it in that notepad. And that's about it. That's all that you have to do to make the client's developer happy. And then the client is also going to be happy as well. So this is the list. A nice, modern, simple design, an interactive prototype so anyone can test it, and finally, a list of all the resources that you used. Now, I know that this may sound a bit strange, but trust me, the developer or the client don't actually need the project file. They don't need to install Adobe XD and play around with it. That's not how it works. There's no slicing, there's no actual use of Adobe XD. Now, let's talk about assets, right? You know that when you install a program, you get loads of files on your computer, right? And it's quite big. For example, games, nowadays they're huge. Well, mobile apps don't typically work like this. A mobile app, whether it's Android or iOS, is typically just a shell, just a skeleton without any meat. And through the internet, it gets all the information it needs. Otherwise said, the actual app, when coded, is typically very small, only a few megabytes. And that's because it doesn't contain a lot of information. All that data, all that information is coming from a server, and that's why most apps require an internet connection. So, all the text, all the photos, all the content, well, most of them, they come from a server, a computer somewhere in the cloud. The app connects to that computer and it gets all that information and it fills in the app, so to speak. That's the meat of it, right? So this allows the app to be incredibly small, it saves battery, and it typically runs faster. Now, why should you care about all this stuff as a designer? Well, that means that whatever you use in Adobe XD in terms of content, it mostly doesn't matter. All the titles, all the descriptions, the photos, the reviews, the star ratings, most of them won't be used. Instead, everything is gonna come from the server, from the internet. So here's an example so you can best understand it. Take my website, right? You can see all of these photos on the home page, but I actually have an admin panel through which I can replace them. I can upload them, I can delete them, and so on. Through the same admin panel, I can change all of my text. It's incredibly likely that your client is gonna have an admin panel as well. So when you're designing, you don't need to worry about photos or the actual text. What you need to do is to make sure that the app looks lovely. Your job as an app designer is to tell the coder, hey, listen, this title should be shown in pop-ins, 32 pixels, bold, with this specific color code, FF3C00. Place it 30 pixels from the top. Now, what the title actually says, the actual content, it can be anything in the design. Of course, we don't typically use gibberish, right? We tend to use realistic content, and that's because we want to make the app feel real, right, in Adobe XD. but not because that actual title is gonna be the final one. So to sum this up, we as app designers are creating a guide for the coders. We're telling them in fine details how to make the app look awesome. We give them a detailed plan that tells them exactly what they need to do, like font size, color, weight, position, and so on. But what we don't do is we don't give them final content. And that's because, again, that comes to an admin panel. We just tell the coders how the content should look like. And with that out of the way, you can now rest easy knowing that the source project is not actually going to be used. Again, we're going to talk about that later, how you actually create that link and send it to the client and to his developer. But yeah, with that, we can continue.